The dinner. We are generally invisible, merging into the background, ready to attend to our gentlemen's needs. Dressed in gaudy turbans and uncomfortable, tight-fitting, colourful costumes, making us sweat so our faces glow like anthracite. We are only noticed when our masters show us off to their acquaintances. My master is a member of Parliament and has an interest in coal mining. I was sent to him from a sugar plantation in the West Indies owned by one of his cousins. He's a good master as long as I'm attentive to his needs, but he has a quick temper and will betide anyone in his line of fire when he is angry. He is angry now, but not at me. His temper today is a result of the difficult, or in his words, the impossible position in which he finds himself. I keep out of his way, but close enough to him to be able to respond immediately he calls me. He is pounding the floor, stamping his feet, shouting obscenities, yelling as if he has the toothache. He believes himself to have been the victim of dishonest and ungentlemanly conduct, to have been backed into a corner and treated as an inferior by his equals. They treated me like a nincompoop. I'd no choice other than to agree, but I'm damned if they'll force me to support them, damned if they will. Perhaps I should explain what caused him to bluster like this. It began with an invitation to a private dinner. He opened the letter, saw where the invite had come from and who his fellow dinner guests would be, and he beamed. Although a landowner and a member of Parliament on the Tory benches, he often worried he was not considered a true gentleman. His father was a poet and a drunk, and his grandfather a vicar. He had bought his manor from a bankrupt aristocrat rather than having inherited it. And he had made his money by trade, and particularly the dirty industries of iron and coal. Although he likes to play the part of landed gentry, he always worries that his origins and the way he makes his money puts him at a disadvantage. Perhaps that is why he is more Tory than those who can trace their land ownership back several generations. My first master, his cousin, the West Indian plantation owner, had no such pretensions and was fond of saying he didn't care what others thought of him as long as he made money. Before I boarded the ship for England, he warned me my new master was a prig. So when my master was invited to a private dinner alongside a member of one of the oldest landowning families, a leading evangelical and a political confidant of the Prime Minister, the most famous artists of the time, and others of their ilk, he was pleased. At last, he said, waving the invitation in the air, at last my worth has been recognised. He told me he would take me to the private dinner, not as a guest, of course, though I'll be there to help my master in whatever way was required. The real reason for my presence was so he could show the others just how much he deserved this recognition, just how much of a gentleman he was to have such an exquisitely ornate servant. When the day came, he was in a state of great excitement and couldn't settle on what to wear. He would pull out one costume after another from his wardrobe, saying, "Yes, this is the one." Then after looking at himself in the mirror, would throw it on the bed, exclaiming, "Damn it, wrong colour," or "too gaudy," or "too dull," or "it makes me look too damn fat," or "people will think I'm a damned servant." He had the same difficulty choosing a wig. It was either too damn curly or not curly enough. And if he was happy with the curls, it was either too damn dusted or not dusted enough. When he had finally decided on both costume and wig, it was up to me to make sure all the clothes he had rejected were put away without any creases. He stared at me. "Come here, boy," he commanded. He pulled at my shoulders and my leggings, shook his head and said, "Do you want me to look a fool in front of all these great men? Do you, boy? Your collar is on crooked and your leggings are twisted. Get them off, boy, and put them on properly." Eventually he was satisfied. I wasn't sure whether his red face was the result of exertion or anticipation. When we arrived, the others were so polite and condescending to him, he failed to notice the raised eyebrows and askance looks. I knew nothing about these people, but they disapproved of something. As none of the others were accompanied by a black servant, I suspect it was me they objected to. One of the serving maids looked at me and said, "Oh dear, what's he brought his Negro with him for? That won't go down well, not in this company. Dearie me." I looked at her quizzically. She smiled at me. "Don't worry, dear, just keep out of their way. That'll be for the best." But I couldn't do that. I had to be near my master in case he wanted me for anything. Otherwise, I'd be in trouble. The serving maids brought out the first course. The soup was served and the wine poured, and the rest of the course, the venison, pigeon and mutton, and the potato pudding, were placed on the table. When he had finished his soup, the master called me over and told me to bring him some venison and mutton and to refill his glass, which I did. He was so keen on eating and drinking, he failed to notice that few of the others around the table spoke to him, nor was he paying attention to their conversation. But I was. They were talking about a campaign. They were going to organise public meetings, print pamphlets. They even had a potter and an artist who had agreed to design images for the campaign. All they needed was an influential member of Parliament, one who had the ear of the government, to make a speech in Parliament and try to get the law changed. One of their members was persuaded to take this on, though it did add a caveat, provided no person more proper could be found. One of the guests turned to my master and asked him if he was with them. He was so busy eating, he just nodded. Another guest asked him if he was sure. By this time, he had swallowed whatever he'd been chewing. "Yes, of course," he said. "This is a damned fine meal and damned fine company." The second course arrived, and once again, I helped keep my master's glass and plate full. I was aware of some whispered comments, but could only make out occasional words and phrases such as, "But if he's, then why has?" Or, "Are you sure he?" Or, "Perhaps he doesn't," and similar confusing remarks. My master was unaware of all this, unless one is very close to him, one has to speak loudly to be heard. They engaged him in conversation again, one of them asking him, "So you're happy to take part in the campaign then?" "Of course," after a short pause, he asked. "What campaign would that be?" "The one we've been discussing all evening. What other campaign would I be talking about?" My master could not admit he hadn't heard the early conversations between these pillars of society. He simply could not display such ignorance, nor could he lose face. So he said, "Oh, that one. Of course I support it. You can put my name down as a supporter. You can count on me. You can take my word as a gentleman." He sat back and beamed. "That is excellent," he was told. "That is truly good news. We weren't sure under the circumstances." At this point, the speaker looked at me. "Whether you would be, so we are pleased. Would you be willing to be a patron?" "Ha, it's our money you want, is it? Of course. Put me down for whatever each of you is contributing. Always glad to support a good cause. And when you support us in Parliament, I've been asked to speak on it." The master nodded. "Just let me know when the vote will take place and I'll be there." It is now several days since that memorable dinner, and his angry outburst comes after reading a notice in the Gazette. He flings the newspaper on the floor and storms out of the room. I was taught to read by my first master in the West Indies, not out of any kindness or Christian charity, but so that I could check dockets and bills to make sure he wasn't being cheated. My new master has found my ability to read and write to be useful on occasions. I pick up the newspaper so I can see what has so upset him. There it is. I noticed listing all those who attend the dinner and put their names to the campaign for the abolition of the slave trade. And there is my master's name, next to that of another member of Parliament, William Wilberforce. My master comes back into the drawing room, snatches the gazettes from my hand and slaps me across the cheek. "Don't read my newspaper without my permission, boy." He sits down and mops his sweating brow. "That damned Wilberforce, he calls himself a gentleman. I'll show him. He hasn't heard the last of this." By the time I finish with him, he'll wish he'd never left Hull. If he's such a Negro lover, let him take them all to the damned infernal northern town and set them free there. I quite like the idea of being a free man in Hull or anywhere else.